The Maguad family was a kind-hearted, hardworking family living faithfully in Milan, Philippines. Cruz and Lovella were both teachers. They had two bright and well-behaved children, an 18-year-old daughter named Gwynn and a 16-year-old son named Louise. Gwynn and Louise had a peaceful childhood, growing up surrounded by their parents' love. By 2021, Gwynn was pursuing a degree in medicine, while her younger brother Louise aspired to become a lawyer. Though the Maguad family wasn't wealthy, they lived comfortably and happily. Their small home was always filled with laughter. In July 2021, the Maguad family welcomed a new member into their home, a 16-year-old adopted daughter named Janice. Janice was an orphan with a troubled past. Her background was a mystery, but one thing was certain: Janice came from a very poor family. On September 22, 2013, an 8-year-old girl was found wandering alone at a dock by a woman. That girl was Janice Shabil. She claimed to have no parents and could not recall anything about her life prior to that moment. The woman who discovered Janice was shocked by what she heard and immediately posted the girl's photo online. Unfortunately, despite her efforts to share Janice's story across numerous forums, no one came forward to claim her. Eventually, Janice was placed in an orphanage. Time flew by, and Janice grew up, taking on work as a housemaid, moving from one home to another to make a living. In 2021, a couple with 2 young children hired Janice as a nanny. This couple happened to be relatives of the Maguad family. At a gathering, the Maguads met Janice for the first time. Gwynn and Janice immediately became close friends. Janice, Gwynn, and Louise often posted dance videos together on TikTok. The 2 teenage girls would spend hours chatting with each other, never running out of things to say. Out of curiosity, Gwynn and Louise eventually asked Janice why she wasn't attending school and was instead working as a maid. Janice, overcome with sadness, explained that she was an orphan. Tears began streaming down Janice's cheeks as she recounted her hardships. From a very young age, she had no family and had to work tirelessly day and night to survive. Her daily routine involved washing clothes, cooking, and cleaning, leaving her with no opportunity to go to school. Janice's future seemed bleak, and she had no idea where her life was headed. Hearing Janice's story, Gwynn wrapped her arms tightly around her friend. She felt immense compassion for Janice, and an idea sparked in her mind. After discussing it with Louise, the siblings decided to persuade their parents to adopt Janice. Initially, Mr. and Mrs. Maguad were hesitant. Their home didn't have a spare bedroom, and their modest teacher salaries barely covered expenses for their family of 4. But Gwynn and Louise didn't give up. They pleaded with their parents every day. Gwynn promised to find a part-time job to help with household expenses, while Louise offered to sleep on the couch in the living room to give Janice his bedroom. After hours of persuasion from Gwynn and Louise, the Maguad family finally agreed to adopt Janice. They saw it as a sign from God and believed that adding another plate and pair of chopsticks at the table wouldn't be too much of a burden. However, little did they know, this decision would change their lives forever. In July 2021, Mr. and Mrs. Maguad officially adopted Janice. They enrolled her at the school where they taught, and Janice even changed her name to Janice Magu. For a while, everything seemed to be falling into place, but their peaceful lives soon took an unexpected turn. One day, about $200, kept in an old cash box in the Maguad's bedroom, mysteriously disappeared. At first, Janice suggested that a thief might have reached in through the window to steal the money. However, everyone in the family found this explanation strange. They had never experienced theft before, and why would a thief only take the money from the box without leaving any signs of breaking in or creating a mess? The truth came to light when Gwynn discovered a hidden, stitched-up compartment in Janice's backpack. Inside was the missing money. Janice quickly confessed, tearfully admitting that she didn't know why she had done it. Perhaps it was the result of the trauma she had endured as a child, constantly fearing scarcity, which led to her impulsive mistake. That day, Janice cried and sincerely apologized to the Maguad family. Though saddened, Mr. and Mrs. Maguad chose to forgive Janice, understanding the pain she carried. Gwynn and Louise not only defended Janice in front of their parents, but also encouraged their foster sister, promising to do everything they could to help her heal her emotional wounds. After that incident, the family of 5 continued to spend time together, going on outings, attending church on weekends, and making sure Janice never felt left out or abandoned. Janice's life seemed to have turned a new page. For the first time, she knew what it felt like to wake up without the fear of losing her job or wandering the streets. The Maguad family gave her a home, a family, and the hope of a brighter future. Unfortunately, that wasn't enough to keep everything peaceful. On December 10, 2021, Cruz and Lovella prepared breakfast for their children before heading to work. Cruz was a teacher, while Lovella served as the principal of their school. That morning marked a significant moment in their relationship with Janice. It was the first time she called them Mom and Dad. The couple felt overjoyed, believing that Janice had finally opened her heart to them. They left for work with smiles, unaware that the day would end in tragedy for the Maguad family. At 3 p.m., a series of alarming posts appeared on Janice's Facebook account. She wrote that someone was breaking into the house and that she was hiding under Louise's bed, which was now hers. Janice pleaded for someone to call the police. One of Cruz's colleagues saw the posts and immediately called to alert him. Cruz was repairing a classroom at school when he received the distressing news. Heart-pounding, he rushed home on his motorcycle, consumed by fear and worry. What awaited him, however, was beyond anything he could have imagined. Cruz arrived home around 3:15 p.m. to an eerily silent house. As he approached the front door, he noticed a blood-soaked blanket and a knife covered in blood lying just outside. Cruz's stomach churned as he called out each of his children's names, but no one answered. He turned the doorknob, but the door was locked. Desperate, he ran to the back of the house, still calling for his kids. The house remained hauntingly silent. Finally, Cruz managed to enter through the kitchen door. What he saw in the living room froze him in shock. His children's lifeless bodies lay on the blood-soaked floor. Scattered across the floor were shards of broken glass, a hammer, and a baseball bat. The metallic scent of blood permeated the air. Gwyn's body was covered in bruises and stab wounds, her stiffened frame lying motionless as ants began to swarm around her. Nearby, Louise's body was found near the front door, tied up and gagged. He, too, was drenched in blood. Cruz was overcome with anguish. He screamed, wailed, and cradled his children's lifeless bodies. Just then, Janice appeared. She was soaking wet, not with blood, but with water. Cruz rushed to her, frantically asking if she was hurt. It didn't take long for him to realize that Janice didn't have a single scratch on her. Janice explained that she had been in the shower and hadn't heard Cruz calling. She claimed that 3 men had broken into the house and attacked the 3 siblings. According to Janice, she managed to run into a bedroom, lock the door, and hide under the bed. She added that after the attackers left, she took a shower to calm herself down. Cruz immediately called Lovella to tell her the devastating news that their children were gone. Lovella let out a heart-wrenching scream, collapsing to the ground as if her heart had been ripped from her chest. She blamed herself for not being home to protect them, convinced that if she had been there, her children might still be alive. The autopsy revealed that Gwynn had suffered 21 stab wounds, while Louise had endured 51. Both had been strangled and brutally beaten with a hammer and a baseball bat. The injuries suggested that whoever committed the murders unleashed immense rage and hatred upon the children. Strikingly, nothing in the house was stolen except for Gwyn's mobile phone. This detail further pointed to a personal motive for the murders, rather than a robbery gone wrong. Gwynn and Louise were laid to rest on December 20th, 2021. Over 1,000 people attended the funeral to pay their respects. Meanwhile, the police continued to investigate the case. No valuables were stolen from the house, and all the weapons used in the murders were household items. The hammer belonged to Cruz, stored in a place known only to Janice and Gwynn. The baseball bat was Louise's and had been kept in his old room, which had become Janice's new bedroom. This meant that at some point the killer had to enter Janice's room, where she claimed to have been hiding, to retrieve the baseball bat. While Cruz and Lovella didn't want to doubt their foster daughter, the more they thought about it, the more Janice's story seemed implausible. Why would the killers leave her completely unharmed without a single scratch, while brutally murdering Gwynn and Louise with such savagery? When Cruz arrived home at 3:15 p.m., just 15 minutes after Janice's Facebook plea for help, Gwynn and Louise's bodies were already stiff, and ants were swarming over them. The autopsy revealed that the siblings had been killed around 2 p.m. that day. Why, then, had Janice waited so long before calling for help? Why did she use her phone to post on Facebook instead of calling the police immediately? And how could she have decided to take a shower after witnessing such a horrifying crime? These questions haunted the Maguad family and cast a shadow of doubt over Janice's account of the events. Somehow, Janice also had time to change her Facebook name from Janice Maguad to JP right before posting her plea for help. Additionally, Janice claimed that she had locked the door to her room and hidden under the bed, yet the room was in complete disarray, with drops of blood scattered across the floor. If the room had been locked from the beginning, how could the attackers have gotten inside to retrieve the baseball bat? Clearly, there were too many inconsistencies in her story. Investigators conducted a thorough search of the house and found an ID card belonging to a 17-year-old boy named Canito in Janice's bedroom. Mr. and Mrs. Maguad had no idea who he was, but a witness claimed that Canito was a young man who worked at a nearby church. The police also discovered a plastic bag in a creek near the house. It appeared that the perpetrators had tossed it, hoping it would drift away, but instead the bag got caught on a tree branch. Inside the bag was a set of blood-soaked clothes belonging to Janice. However, the most damning evidence was found on the baseball bat used to kill Louise and Gwynn. Janice's fingerprints were on it. After hours of interrogation, Janice broke down and confessed. She admitted to orchestrating the murders of Gwynn and Louise, the very siblings who had pleaded with their parents to adopt her. However, she didn't act alone. Janice revealed that Canito, the 17-year-old boy, had helped her carry out the killings. Canito, who worked at a church, had feelings for Janice. Aware of his affection, Janice manipulated him into assisting with her dark and heinous plan. Facebook messages between Janice and Canito uncovered that the two had been plotting the murders for 10 days prior. In these messages, Janice expressed deep hatred for Gwynn and asked Canito to help her kill her foster sister. Janice told investigators that she hated Gwynn because she was jealous and felt that Mr. and Mrs. Maguad loved Gwynn more than her. However, Janice never explained why she chose to kill Louise as well. Many believe that Janice's ultimate goal was to eliminate all of the Maguad children so that she could be the only child and receive all the attention and love from Mr. and Mrs. Maguad. Around 2 p.m. on October 10th, Janice unlocked the door to let Canito sneak into the house. After being attacked by Canito, Gwynn managed to run out of the house but returned to save her brother and Janice, unaware that the true monster was her foster sister. Janice later admitted that it was her own hands that ended Gwynn's life. While being stabbed, Gwynn cried out, "This is just a dream. This is just a dream. I'll still become a doctor. I don't know what I did wrong to you, Janice. I love you." After killing Gwynn and Louise, Janice and Canito cleaned themselves up, changed clothes, and placed their blood-soaked garments into a plastic bag, which they discarded in a nearby creek. Janice then pretended to post a desperate plea for help on Facebook. It took authorities only 6 days to solve the case. When they arrested Canito, they also recovered Gwynn's mobile phone. Janice was swiftly apprehended as well, and both were detained at a juvenile facility. It was later revealed that Janice was a fan of the movie The Orphan, a horror film about a family who adopts a child that turns out to be a psychopathic serial killer. Many speculate that Janice might have drawn inspiration from the movie for her gruesome actions. In a final twist to the case, it was revealed that Janice was not an orphan after all. Throughout her time living with the Maguad family, Janice had maintained contact with her biological parents. She was the daughter of Juanito Cebial and Michelle Cebial, who had been separated for years. Janice also had 3 siblings. On December 29, 2021, Mazzio, Janice's mother, and one of her daughters visited Cruz and Lovella. Mazzio knelt and apologized on behalf of her daughter, but Cruz and Lovella kindly embraced her, reassuring her that it wasn't her fault. They held no grudge and placed no blame on her. Initially, Lovella wanted to forgive Janice, as her strong faith encouraged her to do so. She believed that Janice was a victim of poverty and a lack of education, and must have endured unimaginable trauma during her childhood. However, Lovella changed her mind after seeing Janice in court. Janice's eyes were cold and empty. Despite the horrific crimes she had committed, she showed no remorse, no guilt, and not once did she apologize for her actions. It was both shocking and horrifying that a 16-year-old girl, welcomed with open arms by a loving and kind family, could orchestrate such a brutal murder. They treated her as their own, gave her everything, yet in return, she took everything from them. In May 2022, Janice was sentenced to 31 years in prison, while Canedo received a 29-year sentence. Mr. and Mrs. Maguad expressed their gratitude for the support they received from the community and the public after the darkest day of their lives. By August 2022, they had opened a restaurant in memory of Gwynn and Louise, with a menu featuring their children's favorite dishes. Despite all they had endured, the Maguads found the strength and love to continue showing kindness to everyone they encountered. They took comfort in knowing that they had raised two incredible children who were compassionate, loving, and kind, even though their lives were tragically cut short. May Gwynn and Louise rest in peace, and may the broken, grieving hearts of Mr. and Mrs. Maguad find healing in time.